Hey everyone, my name is Kate Galliette, and I'm making this quick video for you today because your professor and I had a quick chat about how I could share my experience with you as an entrepreneur as a potential source for you to learn some more and get some perspective about entrepreneurship. And perhaps if there's anything I touch on today you have a question about, you could write that down and maybe share that with your professor so he can pass those along to me. We could do them in a future video and answer them this way, or maybe we could do a live stream in the future and talk more about entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur since 2010 and have been working since 2003. My entire career, both working for someone else and being an entrepreneur, has been in the same realm, but it has been radically different how I execute those things. So let me tell you what I do now. I am the owner and creator of the Unbreakable Body Foundational Strength and Movement Program, which is online training for people who want to heal their own aches, feel better in their body, gain mobility, get stronger, have a skill set or an adventure in mind that they want to go on, and they need to build their body up to do that. It includes components for ongoing education, more in-depth learning, but really the entire thing is remote. You can do it all through the internet or through, wherever you have an internet connection, whether it's a phone or a device or a laptop or something like that. And so I run that entire business by myself now, and my entire career has been coaching and teaching and helping people reach goals. But doing it online is radically different than doing it in person. And one thing I would say that has been a positive, but you also could look at it as like a, you kind of wish it wouldn't have been that way, aspect of my career is that I would label myself an accidental entrepreneur. So let me explain what that means. You might be sitting in your class right now going, cool, entrepreneurship is definitely the route I want to go, and I'm going to figure out what kind of business I can do that with, and yeah, I definitely don't want to work for someone else. That wasn't my experience. I came out of college looking for a job, found one, because we hadn't been anywhere near the '08 crisis yet, so everything was easy with getting a job, and the job I was good at, so that was great. But then I started realizing I couldn't really do what I wanted to do. I couldn't really make things work the way I wanted to make them work. And I just felt the constraints of working for someone else. But still, I had not thought about entrepreneurship. The opportunity came up, though, to co-open a gym with another individual. And the only thing I cared about was, oh, I can do what I want? Cool, I'll open a gym with you. And while that is certainly naive, because there is a lot more that goes into owning a business, gym, brick and mortar, online, whatever you do, there's a lot more that goes into it than just, cool, I can make my own rules. It was a great first step for me to learn the basics around what you have to think about as an entrepreneur. Things like a P&L report that when you're working for someone else, they do the P&L for you and they just tell you what was good and what wasn't. And I had to learn to do that for myself, and working with a bookkeeper and learning how to order supplies and order materials and evaluate stuff so that I could decide what the amount of each piece of equipment was when I purchased it and sold it and retained it and that sort of thing. So that went well for a number of years. I owned a gym with this other individual. Eventually, I decided I wanted to buy them out because, again, they were annoying and I didn't want to do it their way, and we couldn't see eye to eye on some things. So we chose, instead of kind of ripping the business apart, to just let me buy that individual out, and they would go on and went on to have a nice career in another state where they could go do more of what they wanted. So that was great for them and great for me. Then, as my gym really took off and the success was growing, people wanted to do that kind of training, but they weren't local. And so I set about trying to figure out how to do this online. And initially I thought, oh, I'll write like an ebook or like a Kindle book or something like that. And that's no small undertaking either, but I thought that was like a nice simple way to dip my toes into the world of online business. I pitched my idea to one of my mentor friends, and he was like, this is not an ebook, this is an entire program, you should go for it, what do you have to lose? So again, I found myself jumping into a level of entrepreneurship that was more in the sense of, would it let me do what I want to do to get my message out, and less from, oh, I've looked at all the financials, this is a super sound business decision. Thankfully, it was a super sound business decision. I just had to do a lot of catch up after launching my product to go, cool, what's this all mean now? Like, what do I got to do to figure out how to make money on the internet, which is totally different than the one-on-one connection that we would have if you were training in my gym, and all the financials and costs and stuff that comes with running an online business. So I am definitely an accidental entrepreneur, but I'm really grateful for that and grateful for the ways it has taught me to look at business in a way that I perhaps wouldn't have if I had thought about entrepreneurship straight out of college. On the bright side, you all are learning things I had to learn while I was trying to make money to run a business, so you do have a leg up there. But one of the things that I think is beneficial about the way I came from career working for someone else into entrepreneurship was that I truly am a technician of my craft. I truly know the ins and outs, ups and downs. I don't have to go do a ton of like market research to understand my audience. I don't have to really brainstorm and try a bunch of generations of a product before we land on the one that is going to hit. I knew what would hit because I've worked in this industry my entire life, and I've seen it work, and I was doing it in the gym. We just had to package it up and put it into something online. And that's how the Unbreakable Body Foundational Strength and Mobility Program was born. That went online 4 years ago or more at this point. I seriously lose track of time the more time passes, but it's 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And the journey the last 5 years has been entirely in learning how to communicate and influence through the internet. And I think the word influence is a bit of a dirty word at this point because there's influencers and like everyone's an influencer and things like Fire Festival happen and you have people trying to influence each other in ways that aren't really moving to create like cataclysmic change in a person. And that's something I value tremendously. Not saying you have to. You certainly could go for the like wham bam thank you ma'am, one purchase and done kind of sale for your business. But my business thrives on people trusting me and wanting to invest their finance and time and energy into me for a long period of time. So I had to spend a lot of time learning how to write sales copy and blog posts and really create an entire ecosystem on the internet so that if somebody landed somewhere where I had put something, they could start being moved to action and move to action in a way that they felt good about. Because I personally don't want to sell something to someone who feels crummy having to buy it from me, or like feel like they got like sold or taken or any of those like slimy feelings you feel when people aren't marketing in a way that is really true and honest and straightforward. So setting up an entire ecosystem so that people could find their way from a free blog post to a free opt-in where they exchange their email address for a piece of free content from me, to then emailing them regularly to eventually influence them to perhaps purchase my program because it is likely the right solution for them given what they originally were looking for. That has not been without its own perils because in that sense you do have to learn a lot about what people are indicating they want even though they're not actually indicating it. And I'll just give you a quick example. They're looking for an article about their shoulder pain because their shoulder's been killing them forever. So if I just market to the shoulder pain, well, there's tons of people on the internet who give away everything for free and kind of like undercut the entire market. So why would I be any more value to that person than the person who gives everything away for free? If I can find out and figure out that their shoulder pain actually is really disrupting their like day-to-day existence, like they're just more like annoyed than usual and they're not as like stoked about life and they rely on pain relievers more and they hate how that feels like they're being limited. If I can get to that piece of like really emotional connection and mention that and honor that and connect to that in a way that is authentic, they're more likely to be like, oh, she gets me. I'm going to invest in her, even if that person gives away all this other stuff for free. If we can make an emotional connection, they're more likely to invest with me. And as an individual who has coached people forever, I thought that would be easier, switching from in-person to online, but it's wildly different. The amount of connection you can make in person when we talk and connect and have eye contact and body language compared to, you know, kind of the more passive interface of like you're watching a video or reading a blog like on a screen and the person's not actually having a chat with you or asking you questions. Does that make sense? So I've been running my online program since 5 years ago. And originally was not a subscription-based model. I don't know if you guys have talked about subscription model versus one-off payments or anything like that in your class yet, but I now run a subscription model. Part of doing that was because I would not stay in business if I had not done that. It was tremendously difficult to sell one-off purchases for coaching programs and be able to fulfill all of the requirements that the job needed, like literally writing coaching stuff and new blog posts, and then running the back end and making sure emails were written and sent out, and writing a sales page and handling a help desk and all these other things. I literally wouldn't have been able to do that because the amount of legwork it took to sell enough one-off memberships every month, it took up all of my time. And I started learning about subscription models because I certainly didn't want to go out of business, but the way I was doing it was not working. And so when I learned about subscription models, it was like a light bulb went off over my head, but it was also like, duh, why wouldn't I have done this sooner? There are so many things that are subscription model. Your Amazon Prime membership is a yearly subscription, Netflix is a subscription, and it makes total sense. If you want access to the content, you pay. And if you don't, you don't. And the access goes away. And so now that's how I've been running a subscription model for my business for the last 2.5 years, I want to say. And it has made a tremendous difference in being able to not only not have to put so much energy into generating all new memberships every single month, because there's that recurring revenue coming in. And so that's kind of the base of the business. And then you can layer on top of that. But also it allows me to have some sort of semblance of consistent, like, projection about how much money we're going to have next month and in 3 months and in 6 months. Because once I can figure out the average amount of people that look at the program, this many percentages will buy, the average amount per month will be this much per person, the person normally stays for 4 months, then I can start going, cool, so we know we likely have that revenue for about 4 months or 6 months or 8 months. When they do drop off, we can start putting in information and coaching around how to help them continue to find value in it so they continue to stay a member and get past that point where they get cut off. But thinking about long-term expenses, things I want to do to grow the business, investments I'll have to make to add employees or team members or contractors, all of that requires that you have some idea that you're going to have revenue. And so having a subscription model really helps to do that. The last thing I'll say, because I know I'm at about 12 minutes here, and I said I'd keep it under 15. The last thing I wanted to say is that online entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurship of any kind, will be the greatest portal of personal development you will likely ever do. You will run into all of your silliness and stories that you have around money, worth, value, scarcity, your own personal knowledge, and if that's enough, and if you're smart enough or good enough or effective enough or whatever. You will run into all of that on your journey as an entrepreneur. And while that can be hairy to kind of wade through sometimes, it's actually a nice side effect of being able to make money for yourself and being able to make something from scratch and being able to maybe eventually employ other people and be able to be responsible for their income, which helps them have a nice life. So it's a nice side effect of that, but don't be surprised if all of your crazy stories that you have about things you didn't even realize you had stories about, if they all come up as you start your entrepreneurship journey. All right, I'll sign off here, and let me know if you have any questions, and perhaps we can visit again through future videos or a live stream. All right, everybody.